Greetings, my name is Kerry and this is Kerry Louise Reads. So I'm trying to get back into doing recent reads videos because the stupidly long 3 and 4 month wrap-ups that I've been doing so far this year really are not practical. So hopefully I'm going to be able to get back into filming more regularly and I'm going to be able to bring you regular recent reads videos. With that in mind, that is the topic of today's video. Today I'm going to be talking about 8 books that I've read recently and I'm just going to get into it. So the first book I'm talking about today is called The Love Arrangement by Ruby Basu. I had an e-arc of this from NetGalley. It came out in the middle of August and I will have a full review for it coming soon, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about it now. This is a contemporary romance. It has one of my favourite romance tropes, which is fake dating, and it's kind of an enemies to lovers trope as well, but the enemy thing is only one side. The female protagonist, I can't remember, I'm doing badly with names today, can't remember her name. She's convinced herself that a steady relationship is not possible for her because her work takes her abroad frequently. But because her father's been ill recently, she makes up a boyfriend to try and make him feel better so that he won't be worrying about her. But then she has to find someone to pretend to be her boyfriend. And then she bumps into the male protagonist. I'm going to look up their names. Anika is the female protagonist. She bumps into Rav, who she knew growing up. He was her brother's friend, but he was the person that all of the families in their circle looked to as like the ideal child. So she's resented him since then. But he needs a girlfriend to improve his business's chance of acquiring another business. So he agrees to pretend to date her. And then, it's a romance novel, so you can probably work out what happens, but I thought this was really sweet. I gave this 4 stars. I thought both the protagonists were really likable. There were a few elements of like, well, you actually just need to communicate this with each other, but yeah, there were lots of things that I really liked about this book, and I liked their wider family and friends networks. Yeah, seeing how the characters grew and developed over the course of the book was really lovely too. So yeah, do recommend that one. I will have a full review for it coming out at some point. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I finished was called The Emotionally Healthy Leader by Peter Scazzerro. This one I picked up because we were talking about it in college. There were some elements that I found really helpful, some elements that weren't quite so helpful. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. If you're interested or involved in leadership and you're a Christian, then it's something that you might find really helpful. Actually, some elements of it might be helpful to people that aren't religious, but it is written from a Christian perspective, so that might put some people off. But yeah, it was okay, some really good elements in there. The next book that I finished was The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. I picked this one up for the Big Books book club, and I'm really glad I did because I really enjoyed it. It took me a little while to get into it. I was reading it quite slowly to start with because I was focused on other things, but then when I went on holiday, I was really determined just to focus on it and actually got through the rest of it quite quickly. For a massive book, it actually is pretty fast paced. This is the classic revenge novel. At the start of the book, Edmond Dantes, the protagonist, is arrested based on false information. When he eventually escapes from prison and inherits a huge fortune, he then dedicates his life to getting his revenge on the people that caused him to lose 20 years of his life in prison. Really well written, and I guess really well translated. I haven't read the French edition. Maybe at some point I will. But yeah, this was my first time reading Dumas actually, and I really liked it, and I have more books by him, so I'm looking forward to reading them now as well. So really glad I picked this up. It had been on my TBR for a long time and it had been quite intimidating really, which is why I hadn't got around to it. So yeah, really glad to have finally picked this up. Yeah, and I gave it 4.5 stars. Next is a book that I really loved. I'm not going to talk loads about it because it's another one written from a Christian perspective, but oh my goodness, this book spoke to me so much. So this is My Body Is Not a Prayer Request by Amy Kenny, and this is about her experiences of being a disabled person and trying to exist in church spaces and just in the world in general. Her frustration that of all the places in society that you would expect disabled people to be welcomed and accepted and find accessible, churches are often the worst, which is really frustrating as someone with a disability as well. So I felt really seen reading this book. So much of this book really resonated with my experience. I've been coming to terms with disability for myself for a lot shorter period than Amy Kelly has been dealing with these issues. But yeah, so much in this book that I found really relatable, so much that I found frustrating and challenging and encouraging. And so anyone involved in church leadership, please read this to start to think about how we can make society better for people with disabilities. I gave this 5 stars and I loved it. Next, I read Resistance is Futile by Jenny T. Colgan. So in my most recent epic massive wrap up, I talked about Jenny Colgan. She's an author, romance author I discovered this year. This one is a sci-fi romance, which I found really fun. I picked it up because of the title and I thought the cover was really cool. The main character, Connie, is a scientist. She's a mathematician. She's brought into a top secret project working with other mathematicians on this code breaking project. One of the other scientists is called Luke and he's really weird, and she soon realizes there's a lot more to him than meets the eye. I thought this was really clever. I really enjoyed it. It was really fun, quite sad in places as well and bittersweet, but Jenny Colgan is an author that I really like the way she writes characters. She makes them, even alien ones, feel really believable. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading more by her. I gave this one 4 stars and I really enjoyed it. The next book that I finished was called A Golden Age by Tamima Anam. This was a beautiful book. It's historical fiction. It's set around the War of Independence in Bangladesh. I think it's around the 70s? Yeah, 1971. It follows the protagonist Rahana. She's a widow with 2 children who are almost grown up, and it covers how the war for independence impacts on her family and her children particularly, and her relationship with them, but also their community. I thought it was really beautifully written. I found it really moving, really emotional in places, but never gratuitous. It talks about the son-in-law of one of her neighbours is captured and tortured, and it covers his experience, but it's through Rahana's eyes. So like there's no on the page torture, there are references to torture. You can see what happened to him, and like at another point she and her daughter are helping in a refugee camp, and again you can see and understand the trauma that the characters have gone through without it being gratuitous or on the page violence. So I thought that was really cleverly done. It was really beautifully written. It's the first in a series. The second book then follows her children a few years later when they're more adult, more grown up. And I'm really excited, really intrigued to pick up and carry on with that series. So highly recommend that. I read this for Read Around the World for Bangladesh, and I'm really interested to see how the story continues to play out in future volumes. So that was A Golden Age by Tamima Anam. I gave that one 4 stars. Next, I finished Passing by Samaria by Sharon Yule Foster. This is a historical inspirational romance. So it's another one that I picked up as kind of background reading for my research. As you can see, it's got a few tabs in it of elements that will probably crop up in my thesis. This is my first book by this author. I thought it was actually in some ways really impactful, really clever. So it's set in 1919. The protagonist Alina has grown up in Mississippi, and then one of her best friends who has been a soldier in the First World War has come back, and he's lynched essentially by the white men in the town who think he's come back with heirs, stepping out of line essentially. To try and save her from this, Alina is sent to Chicago to her aunt, and there she starts to see a different picture on different aspects of racism, and she starts to change and grow as a person. It's inspirational fiction, so there is a heavy Christian message through this one, which for this story, like, it does kind of work, and actually compared to some other books in this genre, doesn't quite beat you around the head with it in the same way. So there were some elements of this book that I really liked, a couple of places where I thought it was a little bit questionable, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. I have another book by this author, so I will be reading more by her, and I obviously will be reading more in this genre because I'm doing a PhD on it. And then the final book I'm talking about today, I just finished last night. Really loved it. This is The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. This is the second book in the Broken Earth trilogy, so I can't give you too much of a synopsis because there'd be spoilers for the first book, although, I mean, the books are quite confusing in a lot of respects, so I don't know if it would be that much of a spoiler, but it follows the same protagonist of the first book, but kind of actually focuses on one timeline, whereas in the first book there were multiple timelines. And then there's a secondary perspective that is added, which is the daughter. Really interesting continuation of the themes of the first book. The complex magic system is kind of defined a bit more clearly, which I liked. There's a lot of elements about like surviving in kind of this apocalyptic situation and how we value each other. Yeah, just so much to love in these books. N.K. Jemisin, I think, is a genius. Half of this book is written in second person present tense, which like it's mind-blowing that she can pull it off, really, because that is probably the most difficult perspective to write from. If you're familiar with my channel, you know sometimes I complain about third person present tense, and actually N.K. Jemisin, the other chapters of this book are written in third person present tense, and N.K. Jemisin can pull it off. She's one of the few authors that I think actually does it really well, so kudos to her. I gave this one 5 stars. I have the third one. I'm going to be getting to it soon while this one's still fairly fresh in my mind. Really loved this book and looking forward to reading all of N.K. Jemisin's back catalogue because she is freaking awesome. So love it. And that's it. This feels like a very short video compared to how long my wrap-ups have been, where I've been covering many books of reading over many months. So hopefully that's just giving you a taste of what I read recently. Let me know if you read any of these books and what you thought of them, or if you're interested in picking any of them up based on what I've said about them. Let me know some of what you've been reading recently. I'd love to hear any recommendations you've had based on what I've said I liked. If you just want to fangirl over N.K. Jemisin a little bit in the comments, you can do that too. Or if you just want to let me know that you've been here, leave me a gemstone emoji for N.K. Jemisin. You can also like this video if you liked it. You can subscribe if you haven't already, and you can also follow me on social media. All that information will be listed for you in the description box below. But that's it for today, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!